OBS as well. I'm not streaming or anything. It's just I'm locally recording from there as well, just in case one file gets corrupted. Um, so first of all, Dr. Roman Sheremeta, thank you so much for taking the time. Can you briefly introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. My name is Roman Sheremeta. I have right now hold three positions. First of all, I am a founding rector of American University Kyiv. We founded an American university in Kiev during the time of war. Also, I'm a professor at Case Western Reserve University, and I was for some time on leave of absence there to do some work in Ukraine. Now I'm moving back to the United States. And also, I am a chair of Ukrainian American House, which is NGO that has been working for quite a few years, but more intensely so over the past 2 years, bringing humanitarian aid and just helping refugees, trying to make Ukrainian people's life more bearable. Let's say that.
Can you just, because I actually don't know, what does an NGO stand for?
It's a non-governmental organization. It's
Okay.
basically this is basically an organization that is not for profit, 501(c)(3). So everything you, let's say you want to have a donation and you want to give it to, when you give it to an NGO, you're tax exempt. So basically, that amount you actually get tax exemption. So that's an important incentive for a lot of American citizens who would like to help out and actually get some benefit on their taxes.
Gotcha. I want to dive a bit deeper into the two roles. Obviously, it's great that you're a professor at Case Western, but that has, I think, less relevance to the situation in Ukraine than your other two positions. Can you tell me a bit more about what your responsibilities were at American University Kyiv and what your responsibilities are at the UA House?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as a title suggests, founding rector. Rector is the basically the president, the um, of the university in Ukraine. That's the title. So basically, I was the chief person, the chief academic officer to run the whole university. So I hired the deans, I hired the faculty, I basically worked with our faculty to bring the first nine programs to the university in the two schools that we had. So I was basically running all the operations in terms of putting lifting this university out of the ground. And as I said, we did this during the time of war. So a lot of our faculty were scattered around different countries, in different places, and so were our students. So it was quite a challenge. Things are sort of getting back to normal somewhat as we're working right now, but basically and that's why I'm able to sort of go back to the United States because the university is running there, and then the second role is the chairman of Ukrainian American House. I basically we're running an NGO, we're running an organization that is helping Ukraine. Over the past 2 years, we were able to deliver almost $10 million worth of aid and help to Ukrainian people, refugees, children, protective gear, all sorts of things. We partnered with National Guard of California. We partnered with Samaritan Purse, with the basically with big organizations that helped us also to deliver a lot of humanitarian aid and also just to ease the suffering of Ukrainian people. So for these two next years, I'll be the chairman of the organization, which means we I oversee the strategic direction. I oversee the what kind of projects we're going to do, what kind of partnerships we're going to have, so on and so forth. So a lot of work.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Um, One question that we have from our audience is that we're obviously raising funds to try to actually help the Ukrainian people, but when we say help the Ukrainian people, can you provide a bit more insight into how tangibly how if like a dollar gets donated, where is that
Yeah,
dollar going?
yeah. So basically, we use these dollars, this money right now for three strategic directions. First of all, is to help direct humanitarian aid. So we have partners in Ukraine. We have boots on the ground where we basically, let's say, deliver food to a particular areas that have been shortage had shortage of food because the supply lines have been cut. So we literally, buy food and bring, or sometimes get donated food and then bring it to those areas. And we've delivered, dozens of trucks of of food to these people. Also, when we talk about humanitarian aid, we also sometimes provide, let's say, a bleed stop, which is would be the patches that help you to stop bleeding if you get, wounded or injured. And this can be used on civilians. This can be used also for medical evacuation of the soldiers. So this is a non obviously a protective type of gear. And so we've been doing that. And it's very crucial because, if your limb gets, shot, let's say you get an injured
Hmm.
limb, let's say an arm, you
Hmm.
put a tourniquet, but then if you keep the tourniquet for too long, you're actually going to lose your arm. So you need to patch the wounds and stop the bleeding and then take off the tourniquet so that your arm will actually survive. And this is one of the biggest kind of problems, is that there's so many people that have lost their limbs, and so we're trying to help there as well. So that's one direction, the humanitarian aid. Another one, we actually working with refugees, especially local refugees in the United States. These people came to America. They have nothing on their hand. They left everything. One of the families that came to our church, uh, she and her son, they literally witnessed how their father and the husband was killed in front of them by the Russian sniper. The kid didn't talk for a couple of weeks. They came to Cleveland, Ohio, and they literally have nothing, So we trying to normalize and help them and families like that throughout the United States. Uh, we know that they will become a very good citizens of the United States. This is basically, if you look at the data, a typical Ukrainian family is actually contributing almost twice as much to the American economy than the average American
Wow.
family. And the reason is because there is a lot of self-selection. People that come to the United States, they are already motivated. It's not easy to move to a different country, when people think about it. So we're trying to help them out to improve their lives and put them on the solid ground. And the third direction is going to go to saving Ukrainian children. So unfortunately, one of the biggest tragedies of this war is actually that so many kids have been lost their families. They have been kidnapped to Russia as well. And if you know, the ICC, International Criminal Court, has issued a warrant against Putin specifically for the war crimes of kidnapping children. And so what we are trying, we actually trying to bring those kids back. We have a couple partner organizations that we are doing that. We actually had an event in Cleveland about 3 or 4 months ago, where we actually had a basically it was in the Cleveland courtroom where we gathered all the legal experts, kind of talking about this issue. So do we're doing all these things, and these are the three strategic directions where we are using our donations, where they're going to.
You actually answered my next question, which was how are you helping those who are still in Ukraine versus those who have gotten out? And I think that was beautiful.
Yeah, we're trying to balance because we understand that this is a very important, point. There's more than 4 million, at least 4 million refugees that have left Ukraine. Our hope is that they will go back to Ukraine. We would love for them to return, and so we will be trying to do that. We're actually working on a project with American University Kyiv, studying how to help these people to get back, but that will be the next step. Obviously, right now we are trying to help people as much as we can where we at.
Right, one step at a time. The When I interviewed the senior director of Project Hope, he kind of said something similar. That one thing that he noticed is that when we help certain Ukrainian people and we get them back to like a, it's not obviously fully recovered, but back to a baseline where they're no longer in in critical conditions or anything, the first thing that they want to do is turn around and help the others. So it's like it
Absolutely.
kind of pays those dividends. So it doesn't really
That's right.
surprise me that when they come to the States, a similar type of personality emerges.
That's right, Roman. And you will probably feel this more personally as well. It's similar with any sort of involvement, like when you work with Case Western, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you become an alumni, and actually years ahead you're thinking, well, I want to help students, I want to help the university, I want to give back, and this is just the university, right? Imagine how stronger the identity is when it is your country.
Right.
You want to help even more so. So you're absolutely right.
Awesome. Um, so I know that you are a public official, basically a diplomat at this point. But you are someone that I would consider had boots on the ground in Ukraine. If I'm not mistaken, you are originally from there, correct?
That's right. I was born in Ukraine. I moved to the United States, and for 2 years, the last 2 years, I actually moved to Ukraine. So I've lived through it all. I've been under shelling. I've been under, in the bomb shelters. I've been, delivering first aid and help to the front lines. It was had explosions next to us, and everything like that. I've seen injured people on a daily basis. We went to the hospitals. We also, I'm a faith-based person. I as a Christian, I went and prayed for the kids who lost everything. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of I wrote it down. I hate how I phrased this question, but like obviously you've seen how everyone has been affected. How about you personally? How have you been personally affected by the absolute onslaught that's been going on?
Yeah, Roman, thank you for that question. This is actually I'll tell you, I'll be honest as as I can. So the first 2 weeks of the full scale invasion, I would say I had a depression. I had a very very heavy heart. Couldn't do anything. Couldn't Well, but that being said, at the same time, I would sleep like 4 hours a day, and the rest of the time I would try to do anything I can. I wrote letters to all the congressmen that I knew, senators. I wrote 2 letters to President Biden. One of the colleagues of mine, Susan Helper at Case Western, she actually is the chief economist of
Hmm.
commerce at the Biden's administration. So I actually, through her channels, I delivered a personal letter to President Biden, even got a response from him. So, because again, I'm not sure if he is the one who gave the response, but at least the letter went to the very top. And so um, it was just trying to do anything humanly possible to help my family. I have 3 family members who are on the front lines right now. About 1 month ago, one of my family members, he's a cousin of mine, Taras. He was hit by the Russian drone, survived, miraculously survived.
Wow.
He crawled to his back to his positions over 1 mile. He shouted to his comrade saying help, and then he passed out, and he remembers when he woke up in the hospital 300 miles away from the front line.
Wow.
But he still has 150 pieces of shrapnel in his body. They're slowly doing some surgeries to recover that. Thankfully, his limbs are okay. He has difficulty to move his left arm, which was completely, he has like dozens of fracture through it. But they're saying he should recover. He has problems with hearing, obviously, because the explosion went right into his car. His car exploded. So this is how it affected me personally. It affects me very deeply on emotional level, on personal level, physically, because of my relatives. I lost 3 friends already in the war. My parents are in Ukraine. My brother, my sister-in-law. So I do I do get involved very personal. I'll be back in Ukraine in next month. So you know very well involved.
I'm so grateful that your cousin was able to survive that. Not
Yeah,
that's I want the word lucky doesn't. It's not right, but I think you get what I'm going for. It's like very fortunate that it wasn't
absolutely.
worse.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Um,
We're counting our blessings. The fact
right,
that he's alive and has pretty much all the limbs, everything intact.
right.
Thankful.
Um, So, lastly, this is probably the hardest question I have to ask, but I'm pretty big on impactful statements because in a world where you're bombarded by news and stories, it's very difficult to retain them all. For many of our viewers, this will kind of be their first deep dive with people who've had boots on the ground in Ukraine, who understand like where the help is going, what the tragedy has been. They've heard the personal stories. If you could only have them remember a single thing, and that's like something that they would use to tell other people about the situation in Ukraine, what would that one thing be?
A statement or a story? What do you want?
You know what? I think we got time for both. So why don't we go with the statement and a story?
So the statement that I would go, let me first start with a story. The statement is going to be kind of the last thing that I'll say. The story that that I probably will share is the story of my colleague Anna Shvindina. She is the faculty, one of the first people that I hired at the university. So this is the beginning of war, full-scale invasion, 2022. We're talking about February, late February. Anna's city is completely surrounded. It's a city called Sumy. You can check it on the car on the map. It was completely surrounded by Russians, and they didn't want to take the Sumy itself right away because Kiev was the objective. So they surrounded and they just went through it. Anna was hiding in the basement because the city was constantly shelled. Her life was in constant threat, and she could not leave the city because of the two parents who were handicapped. And so she was taking care of them in the basement. And I remember just telling her, "Hey, Anna, just let me know how I can help you. Let me know if you can get out of there. Yeah, we have a house, big house in the western Ukraine. For my parents, we hosted my parents hosted about 10 refugees that basically came in that house. And I said, we will find the space, we will find the place for you and your parents." And she is telling me, like, and I'm crying as I'm writing this message. This is like, one of my first hires, my friend, becoming friend, faculty, and she's like, "Roman, you know what? I think everything is going to be fine, and everything is going to be Ukraine. We will survive this, uh and even if we don't, I still know that everything is going to be fine." And the fact that this lady, in the middle of such a horrific circumstances, her life is on the thread, she was the one comforting me. That was so powerful. And I actually had that conversation saved because we were talking. So I recorded it. I posted it a couple times on the social media
Mm-hmm.
platforms just as well, just to be reminded. I'll probably the anniversary is going to come again soon, in February, for that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll post it again because it's just so meaningful, powerful, demonstrate the spirit of Ukrainian people and just the resilience. Now, as for the statement, I
Just to
think that,
clarify about that story, so you're saying the anniversary. So all of the stories that Anna was telling you, this was at the start of the full scale invasion.
yes, February 2022. And so we
Wow.
coming to February 2024. So, Anna survived, her parents survived, Suma was liberated, and everything kind of, back to as normal as it can be in the time of war. But, that's what I'm saying, 2024, this is going to be a 2-year anniversary since we had this conversation. Now, as far as for the statement goes, we as humanity, we as people, we have witnessed some horrific stuff throughout the history. We said never again after what Germany has done in 1940s. And right now we are reliving a similar story today on a different scale, in a different place, but it's a similar story where Russia is trying to basically erase Ukraine from the existence. It's a genocide of a sort. It's a genocide because the primary goal is to make sure that Ukraine doesn't exist as a nation. Now, we promise never again, and never again comes again. And so I just appeal to everybody around the world to stand on the right side of the history. 10, 20 years, 30, 40 years from now, those of us who will be living will be retelling the stories to our children, grandchildren, and we will say, you know what, this was a horrific war. It was a genocide, an attempt to genocide. But I stood with Ukraine. I stood on the right side of the history. And, I can proudly say that the nation has survived. And today, I just want to thank everyone who is standing on the right side of the history.
Recording
I
stopped.
have to stop the recording because that was too beautiful not to end it there.